The thing about LA is also it's a very transient city. Like so many people move there with big dreams.
And then 6 months later, they go home.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Kay Anderson, and this is Lost Spaces, the show that is all about lost queer spaces. Only, it's not really about that at all. It is about the memories of the people who drank there and danced there and fell in love there. Every week I talk to a different person and I find out what relationship they had with a particular queer space and how it shaped the person that they've become. So, LA, Los Angeles, the city of angels. It's not really known to be the easiest of towns to live in. And in a perverse, sick way, I think that is probably what makes it so exciting, right? I mean, not to completely plagiarise a song here, but if you can make it there, then I can't even bring myself to finish the line. You know the rest. And this is what brought Karl Dunn, who, side note, has just released his first book, a memoir about his divorce called How to Burn a Rainbow, to town. In amongst all the newness and the networking parties with fellow wannabes, there was a reliable, dependable, small gay bar in Venice Beach called Roosterfish, where Karl could escape the inanity of Tinseltown and just be in a place where, here I am about to steal lyrics again, everybody knew his name. Let's find out some more.
Before I moved to LA, I went to see this psychic that all my friends were raving about. And so I went to her and she was hilarious. She got there. She looked like Kelly Osbourne, early Kelly Osbourne days. She walks up and she's late. She's got a sandwich and she's opening the door and she's like, I know, okay, I know. I'm like, what? She goes, I know, I don't look like, moon and stars scarves and stuff. I know. I'm like, I didn't say anything. Like, is she reading my mind? She goes, no, I'm reading your face. I'm like, oh, I like you. Like she's serving hard. Anyway, we sat down and this woman, I won't tell you all of it, but my God, she just nailed it. I've never met a psychic with a gift like this woman had. Claire was her name.
Ooh, clairvoyant.
That was the first thing she said. She said, if you make a clairvoyant joke, this reading is over. I'm like, understood, got it.
I would have been thrown out.
And then, of course, all you want to do is make the joke. But she has this whole thing and she says, okay, so you're going to LA. That's happening. She didn't even ask. She's like, oh, you're leaving and going to LA. I'm like, okay, you thoroughly have my attention. And she goes, da-da-da. And she goes, oh, and when you get there, your best friend is going to be a clown. I'm like, what? She goes, a clown. I'm like a birthday party clown? She goes, I don't know. A clown. I'm like, all right. She goes, anyway, he's going to show you Los Angeles and how it all works and da-da-da. He's going to be your best mate and then you're going to have a falling out and it's fine. But yeah, he'll be your friend. I'm like, all right. I go to the screenwriting convention. I'm in a big panel thing and there's this one guy who's asking these really interesting questions. I'm like, must meet that guy later. He's cool. So afterwards I go and find him and I say, hey man, I really like some of those questions you were asking. I'm Karl. And he goes, are you Australian? I'm like, yeah, I am. He goes, I love Australia. I fucking love that place. I lived there for 2 years. I'm like, you did? He goes, yeah, I was the lead clown in Saltimbanco. I was like with Cirque du Soleil. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I think I was supposed to meet you. Swear to God, that guy became my best friend. 3 years, me and Lee rolled through LA together.
Well, then the obvious follow-up question is, what was the falling out?
Honestly, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. Lee was an incredibly talented writer and an interesting character. And I think I offended him or something. I'm not sure. I never really found out. Yeah, I was bummed about it. And I heard he left LA and, he had a moment with a screenplay and then the second thing never happened. And like a lot of people in LA, ran out of cash and sleeping in his car, and then he had to go. So, yeah I don't know. Lee, if you're out there, hey, man, he probably won't be listening to this one. But
Why not? Why would he not be listening to
well,
this?
I know. I'm sorry. Well, you said he was heterosexual.
Okay.
So
Okay, well.
giving you a demo and what you're shooting for. And yeah. But LA was magnificent. You know, I met people there who are still some of my besties. Yeah.
So when you showed up in LA, did you know anyone? Or was it just flying solo?
No, I had the phone number of a friend of a friend. And that was it.
Ooh. Did you use it?
I did, yes. He was one of the first people I called. So I didn't know anyone, but it wasn't hard to meet people. Everybody wants to meet everybody who turns up in LA, just in case they might be useful at some point in the future.
Oh, but is that heartbreaking when they realize you're not useful and then they're like, oh, I'm going to go?
That's fine. People self-select out a lot in LA. Like, they're actually quite brutal about it. That's fine.
When, yeah, like in some ways that's nice. In some ways it's just like, just get to know me. I'm lovely.
I know, yeah. But the thing about LA is also it's a very transient city. Like, so many people move there with big dreams.
And then 6 months later they go home.
Yeah, they're like out of money and they're back. Like, they're the hottest guy or the hottest girl from their small town and they did a play or something. And they're like, everyone's like, you should go to Hollywood. And they get there and, dude, the competition is insane in that town. Like, there are so many good people there who are undiscovered. There's a lot of people who are crap, but there's a lot of really talented people. And you're like, why hasn't this person made it? But I would say the friendships you make there are amazing because people wait about 2 years. It takes about a year for them to realize you haven't gone. About 2 years for people to remember your name. And then they start inviting you to things because they're like, oh, he's made 2 years. Yeah, this guy's, okay, you're worth the investment now. And that's when it really starts opening up. And after 4 years in LA, it's like you've graduated. Like, yeah, it was a great town. And I had a great life there. I was living my West Coast screenwriter fantasy. You know, I was living in Venice Beach.
Did you wear sandals everywhere?
All the time. All the time.
Sorry, I cut you off. You were living in Venice Beach, which happens to
Yes.
be somewhere where some place might have been, maybe?
So everything in LA is about the freeways. You have the 101 that cuts across the top of it. You have the 10 that goes through the middle of it. And then here's the coastline. And the 405 goes down the side. And anything they call west side is west of the 405. So between the 405 and the coast. So that's where Santa Monica is that you've probably heard of. And it's where Santa Monica Boulevard ends, right on the ocean there. That's where the jetties are. That's where they shot Baywatch and all that. And I lived in Venice Beach, which was, you know, had a big sign up, Venice Beach, where art meets crime. And it was just, I loved it. It was this rough little neighborhood. It was pre the real gentrification of the place. And I was lucky to live there then. You know, I was subletting this studio apartment a block off the beach. I had it like a futon on the floor, an IKEA desk and a chair. There was a built-in wardrobe that all my clothes were in. There was a couch I pulled in off the street. And someone had given me a TV that I had on a box. And that was it. That was my life. I loved it. It was great. And right up the road from Venice Beach was the Roosterfish. And that was the only gay bar on the west side. The only one. And this place was the coolest. It was a cool neighborhood. It was rough as guts. It was...
Oh, do we need to explain the phrase rough as guts to our non-Australian listeners?
Maybe so. It had charm.
That's not what rough as guts means.
No, rough as guts. It was like, there was Abbot Kinney Boulevard. And when you go up at Abbot Kinney, when I was living there, there'd be like a trash shop that's just selling junk that you're like, I don't even know what this is. Then there'll be, like, there was nowhere to buy coffee. There weren't really cafes on that street at that stage. There was one place called the Abbot's Habit. And, it was okay coffee, but it wasn't like coffee. It's not like out of it. It was all very drip filter when we made it this morning. It's like that American idea of coffee.
That American, horrible, yeah. Oh, sorry to any Americans listening.
Yeah, sorry, guys. The coffee game in LA, it's not great.
Oh, just gross.
But yeah, I mean, it was there'd be a barbecue shop, and then, someone would have a kind of strange little bar. And then there would be some insanely expensive Japanese restaurant, like in the middle of it for no reason, And it was wild. I mean, it was a really mixed area. It had a huge Latino population, African American, and the kind of weirdo LGBTQ people kind of lived in the surrounds or in the beach cities. And everyone would just drive up to the Roosterfish. And there was, right on Abercrombie, was this bar.
So before we get into the Roosterfish,
Yeah.
let's just set a bit more context here.
Sure.
Where were you in your queerness at this point? Were you just like a fully out human being, or was there stuff you still had to figure out?
Oh, no.
Those are not mutually exclusive statements, I guess.
No, I was gay as hell, no doubt. Yeah, I was fortunate. Look, I was raised in Sydney, which is one of the gayest cities on the planet. I had parents we were not raised with any religion. My parents were super cool. They didn't care. Well, no, that's not true. They cared a lot. They thought when I came out, they were worried for me because they thought my life would be harder. So they were concerned in that level. But incredibly, they welcomed every boyfriend in as part of the family. I mean, they were really wonderful. Yeah,
there was none of them they didn't like.
Well, oh no, they had their thoughts. And they definitely had their opinions, but their attitude was, this is your life and this is your choice. And if you want to be with this person, like, it's not for us to say if it's right or not.
Oh, really? So they're not like my parents that were like, are you sure about him? Are you sure?
I sometimes wish maybe they'd been a bit more like that. Sometimes, like, this one's a dud.
Yeah, but like as soon as your parents say that to you, you're like, that's it, I'm marrying this one.
That's true. That's true. That is true. Yeah, that does sound like something I would have done. But they were great. So I grew up in that kind of confidence about who I was in a very gay city. And, when you come from that, there was no doubt to me about my sexuality. I just knew I was from very early on. So when I got to LA, my mission was, I'm going to meet that hot American bear guy. I'm going to grab me a Grizzly Adams, man. This is going to be amazing, So I was a little bit on the husband hunt as well. I did definitely have a kind of American husband fantasy for sure.
Well, so let's unpack this a little. So then are you one of these people that's just like, I want to settle down. I'm on a mission to settle down.
Actually, it wasn't really to settle down. It was to not be alone, if I'm really honest. Now that I understand myself much better and my motivations, and I can look back at what I was doing and go, oh, yeah, I just didn't want to be alone, basically.
But you could have got a cat.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But it's not just about not being alone. It's about the dedication that comes with a husband. Or can we say husband?
Yes,
just because that's a silly word that I quite enjoy.
It's a fantastically silly little portmanteau. Let's bring it out, dust it off. There it is. Yeah, husband. Look, it's something I talk about in the book, is that I assigned a job to every person I dated, which was, you need to wave your magic wand and make all of this dark shit go away, because I'm not prepared to do it.
He's pointing at himself right now, listener.
That is your job. And, I never told them that was their job. I don't know. That was their job. And I suspect a lot of them were probably giving me the same job.
Yeah. But what were they fixing specifically? I mean, I know there's a lot to fix.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely feelings of like,
I thought you were going to respond to that.
Oh,
Sorry.
I thought you meant in general for people. Like, no, there
I
was
meant
a
you
lot
specifically.
there was a lot to fix back then, my friend. Definitely. It's like, which of these doors would you like to open first? They're all attics and they're all full. And there's some basements as well, I think, and they're flooded. There was a lot going on. And I think it was, look, it was really, seeking outside validation. Like, if I could just bag that guy and be like, that's what I've got at home, that will take care of a lot of these things that I feel, which of course It never does. But
Yeah, but you're still
you
not being
imagine it
very
will.
specific here. What are the things that you feel?
Oh, one of the things that was a real problem for me was that I've always dated bear guys, always. I was dating them before they had a name for it. I was dating them when they were called the fat, hairy guy in the corner.
I liked this band before they were cool.
That's right. I was into them, man. Like, they were always the guys I liked, and I copped so much shit for it in Sydney because back then there was a very specific thing that you were supposed to be going after. And I was not interested in banging a Calvin Klein looking model guy. Like, that just was that. I mean, bravo, like, this stunning visually is great. If you were a statue, I would admire you all day, but I'm not into it. You know, I was into the James Gandolfini types, the late stage Alec Baldwins. You know, that's what I was into. And I copped a lot of shit for it. It was like coming out all over again in Sydney. I was very narrow-minded. And I was in a relationship for a while. And when that ended, and I came out, then suddenly there was this term bear. And I'm like, right on, this is great. Finally, these guys have figured out they're hot. They've got a word for it. They've made bars for it. Like, this is great. And then when I went to these places, it was like I was invisible. It was, I had no pulling power. These guys were into each other, and it just, my insecurities went through the roof because it suddenly was like I wanted these men and I wanted them to want me. And every conversation, I just felt like they were looking over my shoulder at who's the guy behind you. And I was not the hot one in those bars. And I was a bit of like garnish on the plate, you know. This is how I thought of myself at the time. I mean, whether these things are true or not, but this is what I felt. So, yeah, I was on this like mission. Yeah, because when I feel like I can't do something, well, that's when I'll double down and I'll show you. And, you know, I was just dating like crazy in LA, trying to get guys interested.
And so the thing that they were fixing was they were making you feel desirable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And proving to everybody who saw us together as a couple, oh, respect, you got that? All right. Yeah, which was very important. That was very important to me back then. Very important.
So it was important to have a partner as a status symbol.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wanted it to be a loving relationship, and I wanted it to be, you know, emotionally satisfying and gratifying. Like, I wanted that for both of us.
But what was more important? Was it more important that people perceived you to be in a happy relationship, or was it more important to be in a happy relationship? Oh, happy is such a shit word, sorry.
No, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's a really good question. I would say the most important thing is to be in a loving relationship. Definitely. However, I definitely wrecked that for myself and for the guys I was dating because the hunt was the driving force, was to find one. I used to love telling people the math of the mission I was on. I would love to declare the impossibility of it to people, where it's like, okay, and these were the statistics I used to use at the time, like if 10% of the world is LGBTQ+, that means 5% of them are gay men, which means, and of the bears, that's an even tinier slice, and of them, the ones who are single and actually want to be in a relationship and are into guys who look like me. I would love to tell people, oh my God, yeah, wow, that really sounds hard. It's like, yeah, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like, it really was, like, when I think about it now, it's really strange to say this out loud, but yeah, I was living the drama of the hunt.
What, so you would tell people this in an effort to say, look how hard it is for me because of the probability of meeting a single bear?
Well, yeah, people would always ask me, why are you single? I don't get it.
Ah, okay.
People would say to me, like, you're tall, you're good looking, you've got an accent, you've got a whole career that you fly off to Germany to go and do freelance jobs for BMW. Like, that looked all really good to a lot of people. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't land the plane. I don't know. And there were like years of just, it was dry, but also the desperation that must have been reeking off of me. Oof, that's not hot.
Oh, yeah. For some people it is, but that's a red flag in and of
Yeah,
itself.
yes.
But
yes.
so let's find out about what, I'm sorry, this is turning into an interrogation, but let's just go with it.
Let's do it.
As soon as you got what you wanted, you didn't want it anymore.
No.
Okay.
I definitely wanted it. I'm not one of these people where it's all about the hunt, and once I have it, I don't want it.
Oh,
For me, it was like...
that's what you just said.
No, sorry. What I mean is the hunt was so hard to find a guy that I would obsess about the hunt. But the hunt, once it was done, I'm like, thank God that's done. I've got a great one here.
Okay.
Now, not only am I not done, like this guy now gets everything. You get everything from me. I will change myself. I will become whatever shape you require. I was...
What, so you'd meet in the club on Friday and move in by Monday?
No, nothing like that. No, I would have to... Also, having said that, I had a really good life in LA that I was not prepared to just throw away, but I was just... I guess, the thing was I had this fantasy. I was going to move to LA, become a famous screenwriter. I was going to meet this hot bear guy. Maybe he's even a producer or another writer or something like that. We were going to be that couple.
Oh, a power couple. Yes.
So I wanted it to look like that. But at home, I wanted it to be a really devoted relationship, like the kind that I'd heard about people having that just sounded fantastic. Like there was, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Baz Luhrmann and his wife. No, it was Kate Blanchett and her husband, Andrew, I've forgotten his last name. She said when she met her husband, she didn't like him at first. They had a kind of argument at this party, and then this argument turned into a conversation. And then this conversation has just gone for decades. And I thought, wow, that sounds amazing. Aww. Yeah, and that's what I wanted. I wanted something that would be this incredible experience that the two of us would have. Little did I realize I'd not laid any of the groundwork for that to occur,
Well, it's kind of funny as well, isn't it? Because whenever you have a goal in mind or something that you really want, sometimes you pursue that without really examining whether you still want it. It's all just about having this thing without thinking about the reason why you want that thing. I think I've stopped making sense.
I know exactly what you mean. Like, for instance, back then when I was single and someone asked me, what are you looking for? The list was long.
Oh, so what's on the list? Tell me what's on the list.
Oh, the things were, well, first of all, you had to be a bear, preferably dark-haired. I like the blondies, but I do like the dark-haired ones. So I'm like that, and then he had to be like this age. He had to be older than me, and I would like it if he worked in a creative industry. Not a deal breaker. I'll be flexible on that. I would like him to dress a certain way. I had a real list of things.
Did you have height preferences?
Actually, no, I've never been a heightist. I mean, money, it was never about money. I didn't need them to be making a certain income or anything like that. It'd be nice, but it wasn't essential. But it was very much a thing of like what they were reading, what they were watching, where they were going, Had to be worldly, had to have traveled or want to travel. No, but like all these stuff. Fast forward to now, and before I met my partner, Eric, and somebody said, what are you looking for? I said, good smile, good heart, is passionate about something in their life, doesn't have to be their job. I don't have to even like whatever it is, doesn't matter, as long as they've got something they're really passionate about. And at peace with their relationship with their family, whether they're never talking to them again or they talk to them every day, whatever that is, they're at peace with it.
Oh.
Yeah. That's really it. And look, and be a bear and hot. That'd be nice. I mean,
it's the icing, right?
Nice little bit of packaging, like nice wrapping paper is always nice. Yeah.
Well, so anyway, let's not talk about wrapping paper. Let's talk about the thing that we were talking about that I threw you off track. Oh, wanting love so much that you lose sight of things.
Well, I think also wanting love so much that you don't love yourself enough. You're hunting for it so hard. You want it so badly because it's something you're looking for. It's a feeling you're looking for that you're not able to make for yourself. That was me, 100%. I thought it was an external thing only, that I had to wait until, like, I don't know, like I walk in a bar one night or I go to a friend's house for a party and I see this person across the room and this is the moment I won the lottery. Like the love at first sight moment. Like I wanted all of that. So I treat it, and look, I mean, let's face it. I mean, God, every movie we see is about.
Oh, yeah. This is the lie we're told our entire lives. Yeah.
I grew up on rom-coms. Yeah, I grew up on all those 90s rom-coms. Man, that was like.
Oh, and Home and Away, Neighbours.
Home and
I mean,
Away.
come on.
And other quality TV.
So let's finally get to Roosterfish, which is what we're here to talk about. And when you think about the first time that you started going there and walking through the doors, being in that space, is the Karl... Oh, I'm really bad at saying the name Karl. Sorry. Is the Karl that's there the person that we've just discussed, like that's going through the door thinking, oh, tonight I'm going to meet the person that I'm going to fall in love with?
Not in that bar.
Ah.
That was the bar I went to have a good time. That was I'm not looking tonight because I'm at the fish. Yeah.
Whoa, so what is it about that bar that means that you're not looking for love there?
At that time, the kind of guys that I liked, bear guys, you would never see a bear guy there.
Okay.
They're all in Silver Lake at the Eagle. They're all at, what was that other crazy bar that was the portal to hell? What was that one? The Fault Line. Oh, my God, the Fault Line. But, yeah, I mean, all these bear guys would be at the Eagle, which I think when I first moved there was still called the Manacle. So if I was looking to pick up or meet the guy, that's where I'd be going. But when I went to the Roosterfish...
That's so interesting. I'm not the kind of, like, I don't really have a type. I'm just like, if you're interested in me, then I'm interested in you. Let's go. So that means that everywhere I go, there's the potential that I could meet someone. So it's so interesting to hear you be like, oh, yep, just not interested, nothing. There's just nothing that's going to happen here.
No, I mean, my taste in men, I don't... Height, age... dick size, ethnicity, income, none of these things matter at all to me. I do not care. But we need to talk about dimensions. And I like men who have the density of a dying star. Like, I love those big, thick dudes.
A dying star?
I love that. Yes. When a star is dying, it starts pulling in everything around it because the density of it is much... greater than it throws the balance.
Thank you for explaining this to me.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I used to say, like, I just like a lot of man for my dollar. I've always loved these big, thick set, like rugby players, truck driver kind of bodies, quarterbacks, I love it. I love it. Love those big guys.
And they just wouldn't be at Roosterfish?
No.
Never, ever, ever?
Well, the funny thing about the Roosterfish is, it is an incredibly local bar. It was described to me by someone who worked there as it's a small town gay bar in a big city. And I was like, that's a beautiful description, because when you went to the Fish, everyone who went there, the locals, we just all called it the Fish. When you went to the Fish, it's every kind of person you can imagine. It's
except for bears.
Yes, except for the bees. The only bees were the bisexuals, not the bears. But it was like every letter of the alphabet, Mafia. There was, people were all ages. It was, and this is an interesting thing in LA, a lot of the places do not mix. There'll be a Latino gay bar. There'll be a white guy's gay bar. And it's not intentional. LA is very segregated in this way because there's no happenstance. You don't walk to the bar. It's very destinational.
Okay.
Because you have to drive there. And what I liked about the Roosterfish, it was everyone went to the Roosterfish. And there would be straight people who came, like straight couples, and they're just cool. Like, these are people hanging out in the mid-2000s in this little gay bar on Venice Beach having a blast. And they're not there to be tourists. They're there because they love it. They love this vibe. And there was just something about it. It had this kind of magic. It was like Cheers. Cheers on the beach with a mixed crowd and a great jukebox. Great jukebox. Really good.
Okay, so tell me then about the first time there. What happened?
I was going west side all the time. I didn't know the Roosterfish existed. So I was living on the west side, but then I would be traveling all the time over to the Eagle, across town to wherever my friends were, because everybody lived over on the other side. And one day someone said to me, I don't know why you just don't go to the Roosterfish. I wouldn't drive this far for a drink. I'm like, what's the Roosterfish? And they're like, oh, dude, really? And then I had to like look it up on the map book, look it up in the Gregory's. I'm like, oh my God, the Roosterfish. It's a gay bar. It's 10 minutes walk from, it's not even 10 minutes walk from my house. It's like 5 minutes. This is great. So I walked down the kind of driveway to get to the front door. And there's Big Mike on the front door. The one bear guy who would always be there was the doorman, Big Mike. Ooh, I had it for Big Mike. Oof, that man. He was a hottie. Still is a hottie, I'm sure. I'm still he's out there somewhere. But he was like from the South. He had that great accent. Just big dude, nice guy, great man. Like the kind of Southern manners, the Southern genteel, which is very charming, very intoxicating. And that guy just looked good in a jacket. Some people just wear a jacket. Like he's like, that man was a hottie, man. Hot dude. And also his boyfriend, and they are still together, I believe. They're married and still together, was like me. Was like a lean dude, shorter. I'm like, there's hope. If there are the big Mikes here in the world, I'm going to find me a big Mike one day. But you always had a chat with Mike on the way in. How you doing? He remembered everybody's name, remembered what you talked about last time. Like it was cool, you know. And in you'd go. And then when you got into the Roosterfish, that was a bar that kept their barman. People who worked at the Roosterfish, they worked there a long time. They didn't really churn through people. Whereas you know, most gay bars you go to, like in West Hollywood, you go to the Abbey or whatever. And I mean, they're just, you know, that's just like a revolving door of faces behind the bar. But, you know, the Roosterfish, you knew all the barmen by name. You had your favorite barman. They knew you. I mean, it was like a small town gay bar. And there was a rule as well at the Roosterfish. It was great. The rule at the Roosterfish was you never pick up a local, ever. You could not pick up a regular at the bar if you were a regular, because this is the Roosterfish and we do not need breakup dramas. We do not need stand-up drama. Like we don't need that here. This is the Roosterfish. We keep it nice.
Well, so how was this rule communicated and how was it enforced?
It was just, everybody knew it. I don't remember anyone telling me, but it just was, somehow we all knew.
Don't shit where you eat. Yeah.
It was definitely that. I think it was something about this bar was so special, and it was not a transient bar. Like the people who went there. So in that sense, it was like Cheers. Like, you know, when you went in on this night, Jamie's going to be in the corner on that bench. He might have this dude with him, or he might have this girlfriend of his with him. Everyone had their spots, and everyone knew each other, and we all talked all the time. And so you're not going to go and you pick up one of them. It doesn't matter how drunk you are. Like you pick up someone there and you're like, what have we done? My God, will the bar fall over tomorrow now?
Oh, no, I think we should normalize sleeping with people and then remaining friends with them.
Yes, I would love that also. But we know how it goes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
People, the funny thing about the Roosterfish is it just would have this kind of like Thursday night we called locals night because no one would come to the Roosterfish on a Thursday, but Friday night, there would be a conversation in different little points of LA where someone would go, hey, we should go to the Roosterfish. We haven't been to the Roosterfish in 6 months. So like 4 of them will get in a car, drive across, park, walk into the Roosterfish and go, oh, that's right. That's why we don't come here, because it was such a weird little bar. But these were the tourists, we used to call them. They all lived in LA, but we call them the tourists, and they would come on in. And these would be the ones you would pick up.
Oh, so those you were allowed, yeah.
Yes. Tourists you're allowed to pick up, 100%.
But explain to me this response. So walking in and being like, so why is it,
Everybody has this idea of the Roosterfish. And I think also the fact that you do the same loop in West Hollywood or in Silver Lake. You're doing the same loop of 3 bars. You can do that for so long. And then it's like, oh, God, this is so boring. And then someone will say, hey, the Roosterfish. And we'll go, the Roosterfish. I forgot about the Roosterfish. Down they come. And they would come in expecting like an East Side gay bar or something, I don't know. It was never what people expected it to be. Like you could just see them walk in and have that moment of realization of like, oh, that's right. It wasn't that big. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't a huge bar. It's very hit and miss if your type's going to be there because it's just this big mishmash of folks. And also the fact that it was very mixed. There were cool straight people hanging out there. And yeah, there's some of those bars in LA where it's like guys, and everyone freaks out when a woman walks in. Like, oh, no. Well, I think there were you guys who would frequent a lot of those bars.
Purists.
And then, if we're going to honor it with such a title. But I think it kind of weirded them out that it's not what they're used to or what they normally were having. So, which, of course, was why we all loved it. And I loved it when people would walk in and go, oh. And it's funny, sometimes guys from the bear bar, one of them would get a harebrained idea to come to the Roosterfish. And so 4 of these bears would walk in and go, oh, and they'd see me and go, oh, don't you go to the it's like, oh, now we can talk. All right, sure. I'll help you. It's Karl. We've met 3 times, but that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah, and here's you thinking they're looking beyond you, not interested in you, but they remembered you.
I think they remembered my face. That was about it. And it was like, oh my God, someone we know, something we know, in this strange, like walking into the bar from Star Wars or something. But yeah, it was a cool place. Another funny story. I will not name names. However, now you must remember this is still early days of smartphones. Very early days of smartphones. A lot of phones didn't have cameras in them yet. So there wasn't this proliferation of cameras or places like Instagram to dump things that you've seen. So you could be a little incognito in LA. And LA also has this very strange in the closet culture because you couldn't have a huge career. This is the mid-2000s. You couldn't have a huge career as an out gay person in Hollywood at that time. I think it's different now. It's changed. But all the actors and some A-list actors would pop up at the Fish every now and again because here they could come and they knew no one was going to fanboy them. Nobody's going to go, oh, scandal. It wasn't that vibe. Like if you walked in the door, you had to respect, like this is another person who's come here tonight. You can hang out with this person tonight. They want to have a chat. They want to have a dance. They might want to pick someone up and have a fuck. And it was interesting. The people would walk through the door and you go like, oh, I wondered. And they,
Wait, so this is a story where you're not going to tell me anyone?
I can't do it. Again, you got to respect the Fish, man. You got to respect the code of the Fish.
Did you go home with any of them? Is there anything else?
I did not, but I really enjoyed watching them have a great time. Like you could see they were like off duty. I don't think it would be possible to do this now in any bar in the world, but at that moment in time, very early days of this, it was still a moment where you could do that. And I don't know, I felt like it was a very interesting green room, put it that way. It was a very interesting green room.
It's very vague. So basically the story here is there were some people that went there, but you can't tell me who.
It's a kind of crap story, I know, but we're talking about the Fish, and it was, I loved that was a space they could walk into and that would, whatever they wanted to do that night would be fine. It's pretty rare. Yeah.
I'll tell you later when we stop recording. My defamation insurance doesn't stretch that far. Ooh, good. Okay. All right. So then, were you in LA when Roosterfish closed?
No, I heard about it.
How did you hear about it?
How did I hear about it? I can't remember if I was still in America. I'm trying to remember when no, because it closed. That's right. The owners had jacked the rent up. And the people at the Fish stood their ground and they said, we're not paying this. And I think it never got resolved. And then they shut it down because they're like, we can't make this work with this rent. And Someone told me about it. Like I heard about it a month after it had shut, and I was heartbroken because I thought, I can't remember where I was in the world at that stage. I wasn't in the States. But if I'd known and there was going to be a last night and they had a massive final night party, like I found all the photos later on social, I was like, if I had known, I would have flown. I would 100%, I would have jumped on a plane and flown back for the final night because that bar was something else. But yeah, I believe it. I never really got the whole story. So if anyone's listening and they do know the whole story, then apologies if I'm getting it wrong. But there was something with the rent, and then they shut it, and then it was boarded up for a long time. There are photos of it online boarded up, and it had shut. You know, I was like, where is everyone? Where did Colin go? Where did Big Mike go? Like, where is everybody? And we weren't quite as connected. Social media existed, but we weren't quite as connected, and it wasn't like easy to find people necessarily. And yeah, it was done and dusted. And then I heard someone had bought it. I think a lesbian, I think I heard, had bought it and was trying to reopen
lesbian?
it. Yeah, because she was like, this bar rocks and we need this back again, and wanted to reopen it as it was. But I heard it was only like open for 3 nights a week or something. And then it closed again, and then it was the final. Like that was it. It's over. That whole neighborhood and that whole strip is just, it's a very different place now. Yeah, very different place.
So let's focus less on the history and the what happened, and focus a bit more on the response and the feelings. So hearing about it closing, knowing that it no longer exists, what did that feel like?
It was like a sucker punch. Yeah, it didn't seem possible that it wasn't there anymore. It just didn't seem possible. And, you know, I even was texting people. It's like, I heard the fish shut down. Is that true? Oh, yeah, it shut down. It's like, what? It was awful. It just felt terrible to hear this news. Yeah, really bad.
And when you think back to those 4 or 5 years that you were going there, what did Roosterfish teach you about yourself?
I would say it taught me about acceptance. You know, there was no judgment in that bar. And a lot of bars you walk into, there's an ideal, whatever that is, like there's a look or an attitude or something, and you're judged on how are you measuring up to that ideal in this place. That was absent completely there. And you were just accepted for who you were. And it was such a motley crew of people. There's no one to compare to. It's kind of different. It was great. I think it taught me about that. And it was really, truly the first place I hung out in LA that was so diverse. Because like I said, the bars were very segregated. And also, you know, Los Angeles doesn't have a lot of happenstance. Like, your friends are the people who can afford to live in the same neighborhood as you, or you go to the same restaurants. You have to get in your car to go everywhere, but you've got your set of things that you do. But everyone was from everywhere at the Roosterfish. And there was definitely a feeling of you treat everybody like they're an equal here. And yeah, it definitely had that vibe. It's very special, actually.
We talked about Karl at that point in your life and like who he was when he showed up in Venice.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to give that version of yourself a bit of advice, what would you say?
I think I would have just said to myself, mate, you're trying too hard. You don't need to try this hard. This will not give you the result you're hoping for. And maybe just tell myself, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It won't work out the way you think it's going to work out, and it's fine. I've always been like fun and funny, but I know at that point in my life, I took myself very seriously, and my work very seriously, and my mission in LA very seriously. And I think I could have had a lot more fun back then. Yeah, I think that's what I'd tell myself.
Do you kind of have to take yourself very seriously in order to survive LA?
I think you need to know what matters and what doesn't. And there are a lot of things that you think matter that don't, and things that you don't think matter that do. And
Like what?
be your word. A lot of people will tell you a lot of things in LA that they're just never going to follow through on. They're never going to do this thing for you. It's not going to happen. There's a lot of bullshitters. And I think if you can be your word in LA, it's a miracle. Like, to really genuinely be honest with every person you talk to and not hype it up. But show business is so built on the promise and the dream. And like I'd said at the beginning, everyone is there chasing the dream, so they want to hear the dream all the time. Give me the great version of this. It's going to happen. We're going to do this together, So there's a lot of disappointment because you invest a lot in things that people tell you because you think it's going to happen because you really want it to happen. And so your happiness can get kicked around a lot if you really buy into everything everyone tells you. So I think you do need to take your work seriously in that do it well, do it timely. Don't be a precious artist who's waiting for inspiration. Like, you're a working writer. You need to be at your keyboard every day writing. Mm-hmm. It's not your job to judge the quality of what you're doing that day, but you must be writing every day. This is the other thing. I think there was quite a self-saboteur at work as well in my years there. And I would love to have had a better handle on that dynamic in my head. I think there's a chasing success, but at the same time being afraid of it.
If you enjoyed hearing about If you enjoyed hearing about Karl's self-discovery in LA, then I think you might enjoy his new book, How to Burn a Rainbow. My gay marriage didn't make me whole. My divorce did. Which is all about, well, pretty much all covered in the title. The book is Karl's memoir about the end of his marriage, obviously, and the hard questions that he had to ask himself whilst he was rebuilding his life. So if you are interested, I will make sure that there is a link in the show notes to this episode where you can grab yourself a copy. And full disclosure, if you are using any of the links that I provide, then I will get a small commission from the sale. So thank you in advance. And before I let you go, do you have any memories of the Roosterfish? Was it a place that you went to? Did you get scornful looks from the regulars when you went in? Or were you a regular yourself? Well, if any of those things are true, or if you have another space in mind that this episode reminded you of that you want to tell me about, then why not get in touch? I want to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer clubbing, but I need your help in order to do that. Go to lostspacespodcast.com, find the section Share a Lost Space, and tell me all about what it is you got up to, and most crucially, who you got up to it with. And if you're not quite ready to share the whole story and you just want to send a snippet, or you want to tell me what you thought about today's episode, why not find me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, where I am Lost Spaces Pod. You can also find out more about Karl by following him on Instagram at Karl Dunn, or visiting his website, karldunn.com. Oh, and I should say that's Karl with a K. I just keep saying Karl and I can't, Karl. I'll get the hang of it eventually. If you liked this episode, I would really appreciate if you took the time to subscribe, leave a review on your podcast platform, or the thing that would make the most difference is if you just shared it with someone who you think would enjoy it and get a kick out of the conversation that we had. Right, I'm off. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. My name is Kay Anderson, and this is Lost Spaces.